Those are all in the family of our grain that we kind of took a look at before. So these animals are having similar issues that humans are having. They have a similar reaction. It's not exactly the same, but so all those animals are, and then if you would prefer to have the meat from the grass-fed animals and wild salmon as opposed to salmon that are in like hatcheries and things like that. You'll see different things, and you'll see that in the grocery store now. It's like wild-caught salmon as opposed to like salmon that are brought up on a farm. So what color is salmon in the grocery store?
Pink.
Does everyone know why salmon is pink in the grocery store when they make it on a farm? They feed it pink food, and that gives it that color. It looks really good, right? You're like, it's a salmon. Put it right next to the wild-caught salmon. It looks like that. We're in good shape. But actually, that salmon is like artificially colored by the food that they have the fish eat, and much like you talk about free-range animals and things like that, fish is very similar. So when we talk a little bit later about what kind of foods I want to eat, what kind of stuff I want to get from the grocery store, that's going to be something that's important. So fat superfoods include, again, this is going in the books, like this is where you really want to get your fats from. Wild Alaskan salmon, sardines, anchovies, who doesn't love those? Mackerel, herring, trout, grass-fed meat, and omega-3 enriched eggs. So these are like when you're looking for good fats that you want to get from animals. These are ideal animals, not the only ones that you can get them from. But these were just listed in the book, and it's just something that you can start looking for at the grocery store a little bit more if you want to start eating some anchovies or mackerel. Always wanted to try herring, I haven't yet. Cortisol. So who here has heard of cortisol? Man has. Where'd you hear of cortisol?
In the book.
In the book.
I heard about it in a commercial.
I did hear about it in a commercial too. And it was about people that were overweight. And it's like a cortisol commercial. Get this pill that you get. That's right, Amanda. Get this pill, you have it, and you have really high stress levels, and then you have this pill, it'll change your cortisol levels, and it's a stress hormone, and so that's where I heard about it until I read the book, and that's pretty much what it is. So it's it's another hormone. It's called a stress hormone. What they found through research is that the more stress that you have, it'll increase your levels of cortisol, which is not good, and makes your body store fat. Really what it does in your body, it regulates immune response. It will control sodium in your blood, regulates connective tissue strength, which is something that we all want. Releases glucose and fatty acids from the liver that blunt insulin sensitivity, so it goes back to some of our insulin stuff. Again, we're not going into like a ton of the chemistry and stuff. You can get that all in the book. But these are, having high levels of cortisol is generally accepted to not be a good thing in your body. And so cortisol levels are affected acutely by sleep and stress. This is, proven through research. So who here gets enough sleep and has no stress in their life? All right, nobody. We all probably could use a little bit more sleep and a little less stress. Our ancestors, talking about our cavemen from the beginning, used to go to sleep when the sun went down and get up when the sun came up. So who does that here? Nick.
Yeah,
Nick's a pretty good sleeper.
only now that the sun's coming up at like 5:30.
That's right. So going back to, they relate a lot of things in the book, and with any type of paleo information, it would be great to revert back to all of that, because that's how we're still genetically coded to do that, but life is different. There's a lot of interesting stuff in the book about like people have long commutes to work. They get maybe 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night. It's usually not good sleep. It's interrupted. But when you think back to kind of how cavemen lived, they did stuff during the day, but they slept really good. Okay, there was different stresses involved. They weren't really worried about making the mortgage payment, or how can I do better at work this week, and I'm working overtime. We're talking about their work schedules and stuff like that. So it's widely accepted that there is a lot more stress in humans' everyday life, particularly in the United States. I heard a study on TV. I don't know where we ranked on like the happiness level of, or like it's like countries over. Who is the country in Europe that's one that's Scandinavian?
Norway.
Norway, yeah, they're the happiest, and we don't rank very well on the list. We live a very hectic, stressful life, and it from work to kids. They don't have kids here. That can make your life a little stressful, change your schedule and your sleep and everything like that. So all these things kind of happen and lead to increasing your amounts of cortisol. And I think we can all certainly agree that we live a different lifestyle than we used to back then. Rob talks a lot about, hey, when you shouldn't have an alarm clock, which would mean no one would show up to work on time. Because we'd all sleep in if we didn't have an alarm clock or children to wake us up. But if you want to learn more about sleep, you can come to our talk next month because we'll be talking about sleep. So it goes along with this, but it certainly involved, the lack of sleep and cortisol in your body are related. What they talked about in the book is they had like a little bit of a graph, and in the caveman times, our cortisol was really high in the morning, and they would just go down during the day, and then we go to sleep and relax at night. They thought maybe like you did more hunting and like get some of your work done in the morning, so you had like a more of an amped up level. But what they found now is people's cortisol levels are going up like as it getting close to bedtime, and then people can't go to sleep. They have a restless sleep. So cortisol is an interesting hormone that has a lot to do with your health and storing fat in your body. Alright, so the first affluent society. Anyone here who didn't read the book, who was the first affluent society? Carrie.
No, I feel like I know it from something else.
Yeah, go ahead, come on, there's no wrong answers.
No, I feel like I know it. I don't know. Egyptians,
widely thought. They had big pyramids and lived, luxuriously and things like that. But actually the first affluent society, if you think about it, are our ancestors. They worked about 10 to 15 hours a week on average is what they came up with. What they talk about in the book is a lot of times they have maybe like a day of a lot of work, and they put in a lot of work, and then they just lay around the next day. And so they really work maybe like a couple days a week, and often taking like the entire day to kind of laze about. I like that part of the book, it's like laze about. So we've got our lazy caveman here. So this is where they did a lot of laying in hammocks, eating meat off the bone like Fred Flintstone. I think this actually is Fred Flintstone.
Is that what they do in Norway?
Yeah, I think this is what goes on in Norway actually. They're very bearded folks.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I talked about that in the book. Is the cavemen really had more of a relaxing lifestyle than we do. They're not hitting the alarm clock, getting up early, going to work, working a 50-hour week or anything like that. They did a lot of this apparently. So that had a lot to do with their health. How do cavemen stay so fit?
I'm going for Winter Ryan Zimmerman, and I'm here to tell you that saving money with Geico is so easy, even a caveman can do it.
That's a real disappointment.
Let me explain this.
Going for a smoothie.
That's going to save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Alright, so this is where we start featuring the cavemen from the Geico commercials. Fits along with our time period, but not exactly how they exercise there. So we're going to talk a little bit about exercise and how they stayed fit. I thought it was really interesting in the book how they talked about, they looked at the remains of paleo people, and there was really healthy people. They had good, strong. They didn't you think they lived like a miserable life and were really short, hunched over, and stuff like that. They're actually relatively tall and healthy. They took a look at their bones. We'll talk a little bit about that. And they were pretty fit. If you remember our picture from the beginning, the caveman walking along, he looked like he was in pretty good shape, and it's pretty commonly accepted that they were in pretty good shape. So in our commercial here, they were riding the treadmill, he was on a bike or something like that. That's not how cavemen used to exercise, so we'll talk about that a little bit. So ancestral fitness, and so here's our caveman walking here. I'm not exactly sure how they came to this number, but they estimate that on average, the amount of work that was put in per day by someone back then, it equated out to about like 11 to 19 miles of walking, So they didn't walk 11 to 19 miles every day. They did different work that kind of equated that. So they were relatively active people as far as doing physical activity and everything. But the skeletal remains of the ancestors show their bones and muscles resemble that of like elite level athletes today due to their activity and their nutrition, which is a big part of the book. They really had dense bones. Okay, they can't take a look at the muscles. The muscles have deteriorated. They can take a look at muscle insertion points and things and find out that their muscles were large, strong, and they were really, really healthy. Again, they compared their bones to like athletes of today. They did a lot of different motions. They stressed their bones out a lot, and they were pretty healthy people. So ancestral exercise. So you think about different things that they might do for exercise. And they can also take a look at current hunter and gatherer tribes. So on the planet today, there are still populations, small tribes that are hunters and gatherers. They're not, they don't go to work at the office or anything like that. They're still isolated tribes like that. And they talk about they have similar findings to our ancient ancestors when they take a look at their bones and muscles. And it really highlights cross-training and periodization as a great framework for exercise and staying healthy. So who knows what cross-training is? You have a CrossFit shirt on. What is cross-training?
Not cross.
No, it's not. you have cross in the word, so I picked on you. What's cross-training?
Like running and biking and swimming and stuff like that.
So it's different activities. So someone who is like a marathon runner, and all they do is run distances, that's like singular training. That's the only thing that they're doing. Cross training is I'm going to run one day and then I'm going to swim on another day, and then maybe I'll do some push-ups and sit-ups on another day, or I can do those things like in one day, do an exercise. So it's multiple activities. It's not like if you're a cyclist and all I'm going to do is cycle. That is not cross training. Cross training is doing different activities that are, like challenge your body in different ways. So who knows what periodization is? You.
Periodization? Yeah.
Front row.
Changing that up. So you might start with a higher volume, lower intensity, and then switching that up, higher intensity, lower volume.
Yep.
Around with that.
Periodization has to do with changing your workout. So, you think, well, I'm going to do kind of like a running-based workout along with resistance training for 6 weeks. So I'm going to run one day, and then I'm going to lift weights on another day, and then I'll do some body weight stuff on the third day. And I do that for, 6 weeks. And then, I need to change that. My body has adapted to that. I'm going to do something different. Now I'm going to do swimming a few days a week, and I'm going to do some biking, and I'm going to do a different type of workout in the gym, change the repetitions that I do, or the sets that I do. So it's changing what you're doing. If you think about it, that's kind of what people are doing all the time. They're always doing different things, depending on the change of season, or if an animal's chasing them that day, or if they're trying to go fishing that day, or something like that. They're doing different things, and they're changing it up a lot. So they talk a lot in the book about steady-state cardio, which has been shown to accelerate the conversion of fast-twitch muscles to slow-twitch muscles that naturally occurs with age. So do you think any cavemen went for like a jog for like 10 miles or something like that? No, there's no real reason to do that, but I don't know when the running craze officially started, like in the United States, but there's a big running boom. What's that?
Jogging?
Jogging. They call it jogging.
It's like the 1970s.
I think so. Yeah. So then you got,
man.
yeah. So you got like Runner's World and stuff like that. I'm sure more people started cycling like as soon as Lance Armstrong became popular. But doing that type of activity really isn't that great for you if you want to be a good, healthy, paleolithic type person. And so I know some people probably know about fast twitch and slow twitch muscles. You can get a lot of detail with that. But if you think about it, fast twitch muscles are things that like the 100-yard dash guy has or a girl has at the track. Their explosive speed, jumping power, things like that. And slower twitch muscles are muscles that like a marathon runner would have. Someone who has to use their muscles over a long period of time. So if you think about it, probably Paleolithic people had to use fast twitch muscles more. That was better for them. They need bursts of energy to either catch an animal, run away from it, or lift things up and move things around, as opposed to just running in circles for a while. You really don't do that. What they found is everyone naturally, as they age, their fast twitch muscles turn to slow twitch muscles. So in an extreme case, you can imagine like a little 2-year-old running around like crazy, bouncing off the walls, and like kids like a spaz. You just go everywhere and do anything. So that's fast. Everything he's moving around. And then if I think about my 90-year-old aunt, and if I asked her to run really fast out to the car, it's going to take her a while to get there. That's just a natural progression. We start moving slower, over time. But they found that doing like just regular